So I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to our first speakers this afternoon, Pascal and Sinead Gillard of multiple businesses, actually, serial entrepreneurs in Drumshanbo in County Leitrim. And really, I suppose, one of the most innovative food companies that I have had the pleasure of working with over the years. Never stop growing, innovating, and really building something very, very special in Drumshanbo. So welcome, Sinead and Pascal, husband and
Thank you
wife
very much.
team.
Thanks a
Great.
million, Orla.
Great. Do you want to start off? Tell us a little bit about where it all started. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I go there, I suppose it was myself that was here initially. And in fairness, when I think about it, Orla, you were one of the first people I came through through County Enterprise. I came back home and here to Drumshanbo in '98 after being just away for a few years between Dublin and Australia. But I've grown up in a entrepreneurial family as such, with both my parents being people who took chances in the 70s and 80s, starting out with self-catering cottages, and then my mother in the 80s starting out a restaurant, and then come to the late 90s, that restaurant was dying really. What had happened yet was the boat business, which we were relying a lot on, boat trade, that had changed completely. So we had to change our game as well. And I loved cooking in the restaurant, and I loved baking and eating. So I didn't even do home ec in school. I didn't do any courses or nothing, but I loved food. And the bread was popular in the restaurant, and I decided, do you know what, we might just go down this route. It was a friend of mine saying, well, why don't you try a local shop? And in fairness, Joseph Mack in Drumshanbo, he said, come ahead and sure, try it out. And, shops will take that chance, especially with food items, because it's a sale and return a lot of the time. So if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. They don't lose out. So they said, come ahead, you try out your breads. And that's it. It started off from that. So I hadn't... we had a kitchen that was EHO approved, but we'd only a small oven. So I had a small oven. So I was working silly hours initially, but I suppose I had to do that to see, was it worth investing in? And a great way of going about it too was going to the Sligo market. That was on at the time down at the university or at the college there. So we used to do Saturday mornings and to get feedback and to find out maybe where I was going wrong or where I was going right. And then it was a case of coming to County Enterprise, Leitrim County Enterprise with my idea. Now, we weren't reinventing the wheel. We were just doing bread, it wasn't some, but I remember yourself and Jolo and others said, no, go for it. And initially it was to do with mentoring and just seeing what way we should lay out our kitchen and what way we should try and sell it, and pricing your item. That was a real important thing as well, to price things correctly when you're starting out. So, as I say, went from that and growing. My parents were helping me out and all that type of thing initially. So I definitely went small steps. I didn't go head in and try and look for money and invest big time. I did try and suss out markets initially, and then roll on for another few years. Pascal came along, and I was just doing a small amount of products at the time. And then Pascal did see that, the yeast end of things and sourdoughs, and that was definitely a growing market, and spelt and all that. So with Pascal's background as well, I'll let you talk in a second, Pascal. Pascal's background and that the two work together. I'm slightly cautious, and Pascal's like, let's go for it. We'll try. So between the two of us, it's a good because because you do need to take chances if you want to be. I don't see myself as an entrepreneur, but you have to be willing to take a chance. As my granny does say, you have to lose to win. So there will be times you'll be saying, what the hell am I at? And is this worth doing and investing in? But you do have to take that chance to try and further it on, so we're at this now at a stage of supplying, all the local small enterprise or, privately owned shops to the bigger, like the Tesco's and the Super Values and hotels. And as Pascal would always be of the idea, keep looking ahead, because that shop could drop you next week, or that hotel could be gone in another few months. You do always have to be looking ahead and thinking ahead and see what is popular out there, like more than with the, and that type of thing. So that's where we're at now. We're supplying a good few locally and employing a good few locally between County Enterprise and Leader as well, helping us out with it,
So. And I always remember the magic number of, I think, was it 16
The 16 loaves.
16 loaves. Was that in a day or a week?
Oh, was a day, that was in a day, but that took me hours. It was taken I could only do 4 loaves at a time, and then let them cool and hand wrap them and write the labels out. And I know God rest my father, he was by, but I remember him thinking initially, this is daftness. What are they at? You know, because it was nearly like a busy fool initially, but I suppose I had to try that out to see was there a hunger for it, or did anybody want it? You know, because nearly in every village there's somebody making brown bread, there's somebody doing, you know what I mean? So to try and make yourself different and that initially takes a bit of work, or to prove that you're. So yeah, that was the initial number, but now we're thankfully
flying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Pascal, I suppose one thing that helps Jinny stand out, I mean, I know your tagline is it's a family thing, which is lovely, and even your children are involved, but you know, you've used I suppose you've taken it from the bread and now introduced a range of bread mixes, which allows you to sell nationally and internationally, and that's the one that went out in people's pack, the Stout Bridge, and that to me is a very traditional product, but you're making it accessible to people. So just where did that come from, or how did you decide to go down that road?
I guess quite a few years ago, we attended a show on the RDS, kind of Meet the Buyer event, and a girl from France was chatting to us. Now, our stout bread has always been popular. It was developed initially for the hotels, and in fact, it was so popular that every time a chef left the hotel, he brought us with him. So that grew our business in the food service. But the French lady, she's actually Irish, and she distributes in France, and when she tasted the stout bread, she was amazed, you know, and the carrot cake as well, and she took a delivery from us. We realized fairly quickly that delivering to France a fresh product wasn't going to be simple, so we had a delayed ferry, we had bread losing 3 days shelf life. So then what do we do next? This wasn't very successful. The carrot cake worked, but the stout bread was about, you know, day 4 really. When she tasted it, it was day 1. So it was a different product. So that's really where we thought, God, maybe we'll try making this into a dry mix. And we sent it over to her without any of the fancy packaging, and she liked it. But then we learned from that. Buttermilk was what we use in the bakery, but she found it harder to access buttermilk in France. So then the Food Academy, which the local enterprise board invited us to attend, we went along to that. That was brilliant for us because we had the products in our mind. We'd already, you know, done them, the granola and the croutons, but it kind of gave us the impetus to push it to another level. So we got shelf life analysis done, nutrition analysis done, and then we were shelf ready. Plus, they encouraged us at Food Academy level to get a new logo, or to spend money on a logo and spend money on the packaging. And we spent 2,000, and that was a lot of money. And of course, you know, when you come back from one of these meetings after missing a day's work, and then you tell Sinead, I want to spend €2,000 on a logo, and what's wrong with our old logo? But you know, when we got the new one, we were able to use it. We liked it so much, we put it on the tea room as well. And all of a sudden, our branding had moved up a notch, you know?
Yeah. And that's you've just opened up the next question perfectly, because like establishing one business was a great start, but at last count, you had 3 businesses in the one complex. So just tell us a little bit about the tea rooms.
The tea room was, I suppose we were lucky in the sense when Sinead's parents bought the site in the early 70s and built all the cottages, they picked a great location, and who'd ever have thought we'd be able to walk on water in Drumshanbo. So the start of the Blueway is like James used to hit the golf balls into the lake from the lawn here. So that's how close we are, and it was a no-brainer to set up a tea room, but our kids were small and we just weren't ready for it. But like everything we did it slowly. And I mean, I was pushing to open the restaurant quicker, but Sinead was, in fairness, was always saying, let's wait, and let's wait till we're fully ready. And we did, and we were fully ready. Sinead did food courses, and she did the business of food with Bláthnaid Bergen, and she was ready to open. And I think that was the key to our success in the tea room. And having done all this preparatory work with Food Academy, that in turn got us into Aldi because we were shelf ready with a good product. And then with the COVID last year, to be able to have an online shop thanks to a trading voucher through the Enterprise Board, having access into Aldi, which was nationwide, which meant the online shop got use because people were able to access our stuff when it ran out of the Aldi stores. And that has opened up, you know, our business to new customers. We're gone to a different level, and we're finding that with mixes and stuff like that, the labor isn't as intensive. You have shelf life. Yeah. We actually might someday be able to go on a 2-week holiday if we do more mixes. So, you know, all of these things, like the tea room was a great idea, but I'll tell you, there was a lot of work, huge investment, and thanks to Leader, you know, it was great to get that little bit of financial assistance as well. It just allowed you to go up a level on your spec as well, you know.
Yeah, I suppose just some of the learning that you're sharing is, you know, connect with your local agency, whether that be the local enterprise officer or leader, because there is lots of supports there. When you're ready, invest in your brand. But until you have the €2,000 or whatever you need, you know, you did a great job on branding, but you're very good on social media as well. So that's obviously helped. But and invest in yourself, yeah.
Until you're ready, but I mean, I was 98 when I came back. You know, this hasn't happened overnight either. Yeah. So I had money saved from something that I started out initially to invest in equipment, you know, and I just kept growing. And one thing initially starting out too, I think, which is often important, is cash flow. And so if you're very busy trying to get your product into shops and trying to make stuff, it's very, very important to make sure you're getting paid for it. And that's where some things I think you can end up being so busy but not actually having enough cash flow so if you are doing something like that and spending hours, make sure you're getting your money in to keep things rolling and keep on top.
So what does success look like for the Gillards?
It might sound daft, like it isn't always the bottom line figure for us, you know. I mean, it has to be, of course, very, very important to run a business, but I think achieving the sourdoughs was a big success for us. I mean, I remember the time, you know, when Sinead's mum started and dad started the cottages, they were doing sandwiches for the French. We moved that on from white pan to cuisine de France baguettes, and then Sinead saw them pulling the middle of the baguette out and eating the crust, and then we moved on to making our own baguettes, and we went a step further, and eventually, you know, the French clapped us coming into the tea room one evening. They liked the bread so much because the bread was so important to the French people, and they tell us now that our sourdough is as good as 70 or 80% of the bakeries in France. That's success to us. We're not making a whole lot of money on sourdough, but it's probably our favorite bread, and it's a labor of love.
But it's a success too. We're able to live in Leitrim with our 4 children, both work in Leitrim, both be in a second generation business. And I know from my mother, if she was standing here, for her, that, I suppose she would say that is success. I've managed that we're able to stay here, have a good life, you know what I mean, in Leitrim. Success for me is that, I'm happy, my children are happy, people are enjoying what we're producing, and you get those nice messages, you know, and people are happy coming in, like even just over at the tea rooms. I'm just after coming back, the people are like, oh, it's great to see the doors open. It's great to see some nice things there, no more than Sham being open as well. You know what I mean? People just are so happy to see places up and running and a bit of normality as such, but you are putting a smile on people's faces, and even if it's only something small, like whatever, the sweet treats. If I'm closed here, that's where I'm heading for, a Shams on my days off. And it's lovely to just get something handed to you, something you enjoy, and that's so to be able to still have our doors open, run a business, not have to be worrying about banks knocking on the doors or things like that. I'm happy.
And I think after 20 years in this business, or I think our biggest success was in the lockdown. In like what we managed to do in lockdown, we've grown our tea room business, and it was only open in 2019. We have more new clients, we have new business, we have a new range of products. We're doing things now. Maybe our business is going to be totally different going forward because of it. So we adapted very fast. But work we had done prior to the lockdown really paid off. So you might be going on, you know, meetings to Donegal or wherever, but you're working on your business for the future. And at the time, you can say, how can I take this out of my day's work? But you know, like we are learning a little bit that it's better to be working on the business than in the business all the time. Now, last year was tough because of, you know, holidays, and we were working probably more in the business than ever. And when we done the tea rooms, like when we opened them up straight away, it was just Sinead's, myself, and our daughters, you know. So during the lockdown. And I think that was our greatest success, to be able to survive. And mentally, we were in great shape because we were too busy to be looking at the news and looking at the daily figures, you know. So it was,
and that was going to be one of the questions actually, but you kind of answered it in one way. Like, how do you cope with the pressure? It sounds like, you know, you work hard through it and just come up with creative ideas to keep the show on the road.
We get on well, and I suppose the pressure is equally shared because of that. We're both into what we're doing. Like, I'm bakery, Sinead's tea room, but like we're crisscrossing the whole time. So one problem in one area is discussed, you know, and also like we use a company, Peninsula, as well. So if there's tough things to be, you know, worked on HR issues or anything like that, at least you have somebody behind you. So I suppose don't be afraid to ask the experts, and you may have to pay a bit for that, but you know what? It's money well spent if you can resolve any issues, you know. So like always be ready to lean on someone else as well. And
and to listen to, I have no chef background or no train, but so I'm very open to listening, to learning. I would quite happily learn every day, do courses every day if I could, when it comes to food and cooking and, you know, and all that type of thing. So I know.
Pure passion, Sinead, and that comes
across. Well, there are days, don't worry, there are days I do give out, Orla, and I do go, what am I doing? But I know the pluses definitely outweigh the minuses. That's what I have to say,
And I'm just going to ask you finally, like, what's next? You know, where do you see Jinnys Bakery and the rest of the business is kind of, I know it's hard to tell in 2021 where you don't know what exactly is happening, but you know, the change that you've made will help. Yeah,
and I think definitely this idea of building a brand, and that's really what we're trying to build a brand that it is recognizable, that it is that someone would get their package, that they say, geez, was I in Drumshanbo? Oh yeah, that's the tea room. And or if they're you know, making their bread somewhere else. So I suppose to the mixes are definitely a big thing that we want to go down as well, because again, like, that is something you can have ready. You know, you can be tipping along and be working away at that. But I suppose building on this brand, we're hoping maybe one of our children will want to take it over as well and continue it on, you know. So we're trying to build it a strong enough business that it'll keep going. With the way Drumshanbo is, with the distillery now and the Jackalope and with the walkway and all that, it's becoming a much popular. Like last year when the cottages were allowed to open for the 2 months, it was bedlam, like every place that I suppose opened for those 2 months around Ireland. But there was people that never stepped foot in Leitrim before that stepped foot in it last year because of COVID. So there are pluses, and who actually we booked for the following year and have seen, do you know what, this is a beautiful place and very accessible and easy to get to. So we'll be here for another few years, I think, Orla.
Another few decades, Sinead. Listen, thank you so much, and we miss seeing you, and we miss the tunes.
Thank you so much for all your help throughout the years, Orla.
Not at all. And I got a picture from Pascal, I must share it on social media, where there was 3 generations of the family putting together the goodie pack that went out. So Myra is hale and hearty, and the kids are working hard. So well done. Thank you so much. It's great.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks a million.